Idaho Lions fans, welcome to the Detroit Lions podcast. This is episode 398. I'm here. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. This is the official Detroit Lions podcast for Reddit. I'm your dashing host, Chris, and I'm just confused by my stunning, gorgeous co-host, Andy Sandman. How are you doing, brother?
Here to please.
It's hard to call you brother. I have to say.
Neck up.
Face in the pillow, and you're everything I ever wanted. All right, sorry for those who are listening. Sandman's back to his wicked ways.
Broken camera still, but a slacker.
Yeah, no, that's a good one.
I'm gonna come back with like a $3,000 DLSCR or whatever they're called. You're gonna see all the pores on my face, stuff you guys didn't want to see. Way worse than this photo. Well, I'll guarantee that. Well, way worse.
We'll come up with a way to stop that. All right, we got a good show today. We got to talk about 2024 NFL draft. Could it come close to home for the Lions fans? We're going to talk to Jeff Risdon just because his face isn't, his comparatively ugly face isn't on the screen. Sorry, Jeff. Doesn't mean we won't talk to him. He will be coming to us from the 2020 NFL Combine. Andy's here, and he's going to make a great case. And this is something that I love, and you'll see more of on the channel, not just from Andy, but from others as well. The kind of give us a different voice, give us a different take, give us your way of thinking about things. And he's got this why not Kyle Hamilton, and I am so in on it because I'm in on Kyle, and having this kind of sense of opportunity to hear a different perspective is going to be good for, I think, all of us. So that's awesome. Got some new killer content. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more. A great show lined up. Andy, you ready to go, my man?
Let's do it.
Let's kick this off and break it down.
All right. Oh my goodness, Andy, you are. We got what do we have? Rob Swift. Brothers don't shake hands. Brothers got a hug.
Front to front hug, or
any way you can get it. We can do them all, right?
I've never done a back to back hug, and we can give that a go.
I'd give it a go at this point. All right, let's get into it. I got to do a quick personal thing first and foremost. I have to congratulate my smarter than the average bear son. He is accepted to the University of Florida, which is a first choice school. He will be a Florida Gator, following in the footsteps of Lomas Brown. A little bit different way of attacking school. But for those who don't know, I'll tell you a little something about Florida. You know, you laugh, ha ha ha, Florida man and all that. Being a transplant here, there's something that we've got that you all wish you had. And they call it Bright Futures. And the idea is that, you know, in Michigan, when I was there, and in California, when I was there, they said, the lottery, it has to be legal because we're going to take the money and we're going to put it into education. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, good idea. Clap, 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 clap. And it doesn't seem like anything changed, right? In Florida, they said that, and they have something called Bright Futures, which they use to pay, you know, if you have a certain grade point, certain SAT score, and do a certain amount of community service, they pay for all of your tuition and books for free. So the boy he's chosen to stay in Florida to do the free route because he wants to go to med school. And he said, you can pay for my med school, Dad. So there you go. He's not a dummy.
What a great kid, you know. Yeah. That's really great. And, you know, we've been talking about this for a long time.
Yeah.
Where is he going to go? What does he want to do? You know, it's amazing that it's finally here and that it's all coming. The plan is coming together. He's
a great kid. He's just a great kid. Smarter than I ever was, at many years older than his age. He's done well. So congrats, boy. We're all proud of you. And I've even got a little Gator mug. You can't really tell so much right there already. I'll have some Gators gear around just because I gotta. All right. Oh, just really quick. The acceptance rate was so crazy. They're like the 5th ranked public college university in the nation. Their acceptance rate was the same as U of M's in 2017 this year. It's nuts.
Really?
Nuts. Yeah, it's gotten more and more competitive. So we'll see. Go Gators. We'll do our thing. All right, let's get into football. Thanks for indulging me for a moment, everybody. I appreciate you doing that. Let's talk about the 2024 NFL draft, buddy. You know what it means. They're talking about it could be, not only could it be in Detroit, Detroit's a front runner.
You know, this has been talked about for a long time. I don't know if standard I don't want to say standard fan, but people that aren't around aren't very aware of how long this has been attempted. When Rod Wood was brought on board so many years ago now at this point, one of his initial goals that he talked about was getting the city of Detroit more involved with the NFL. He didn't want to get one Super Bowl because we had a new stadium that the NFL was almost obligated to give us. He wanted to be more involved all the time. That drafts, he wanted the Pro Bowl to maybe come here if they were going to start doing a rotation. And this is all stuff that he talked about. And really, props to Rod Wood if the Lions end up getting the draft. This has been a long time coming. And honestly, how fantastic would it be to have the draft here? It's going to be a really, really rowdy draft for good or for bad. It kind of is what it is.
Yeah. We will do something, Sandman. We will put something together for this draft. This is either a pre-draft party. I don't know. Maybe we'll do Radio Row. It was the thing we do. We'll work this out. This draft will be a good time. I hope it comes to Detroit. I hope it comes to Detroit. I love these kind of things. A lot of people travel for the draft. Does a lot of good for the for travel and movement within the city. A lot of income raised and generated around the restaurants and hotels and all that stuff. And as a guy whose state has no state income taxes, thanks to all the Disney hotels and so on, that kind of movement helps the city out. And I would love to come to Detroit and do the draft. That just seems like it would be kind of it's one of those kind of stake in the ground kind of moments. You know what I mean? That would be very, very good stuff.
Oh, for sure.
All right. Have to say, Ryan, thank you, sir, for the super chat. Defend your positional value, Sandman. LOL. Hashtag give me Hamilton.
It's coming. It's coming.
And we got, Trip Wag. Went to Cleveland last year for the draft, and it was unreal. Yeah, I wanted to go so bad, and I wanted to go this year to Vegas, but we're sticking hard to this show. We're sticking hard to do your draft party live from the local studios. Oh man, are you in on the draft this year, Sandman? We had talked about it and my brain is like frozen.
What was that again? I'm sorry.
Are you in for the draft party this year?
Oh yeah. I'll be around.
Love it.
I don't know if I'll be able to top our Tavai year where we sat around for 20 minutes trying to, number one, figure out how to say his name, number two, figure out who he was, and number three, make sure that we didn't have a joke feed.
He's touching me there again. He's touching me right in my fandom.
I need to move forward. I can't keep coming back.
Oh my goodness.
It's too painful. It's too painful.
Well, we'll be here. We'll have our draft party and we'll rock it. We'll roll and we'll do a lot of really good stuff with it. Lionore, the hopeful, one of our members. Thank you for joining. Let's see. I'm a couple minutes behind, but congrats to you and your son on the University of Florida. My daughter got in too, but is choosing FSU. A little sad since I'm a Gator, but still proud of my soon-to-be Noel. Yeah, there's no shame. And in Florida State's acceptance rate was crazy. That 74,000 people apply and only 15,000 admitted. It was crazy. My son applied there too. That was his backup school. We visited both campuses. They're gorgeous. Florida, it was just one he felt that it really, really kind of fit where he was at, but he got the FSU one too. So don't be ashamed or don't be sad. It's a great campus, Leonore, and thank you for the super chat. All right, Knowles, you never know what's going to happen. They, with the new coach in Florida, it could change all of football. So, okay, Drake London. I want to talk about Drake London for a second, if you don't mind. Drake London said he's encouraged by how much Amon-Ra St. Brown has thrived since leaving USC, and of course, would love to reunite with him in Detroit. When it was asked if he was surprised by St. Brown's record-breaking season, he said, "No, that's a sun god right there." Drake London, I know it gives you some tingles in all the right spots there, Andy.
Oh, that's honestly, if Drake London somehow made it his way down to the 32nd pick, I would run up to the podium to take him. Not only is he a fantastic player and by all accounts a fantastic person and human being, he fits one of the Lions' biggest needs and would do so with a teammate where we can start with some chemistry where, and I feel strongly about situations like that. I felt that way about the Aquara brothers when Julian came in, that there's something to be said about being held accountable by somebody that you hold dear to your heart. So when you're Drake London and you come into the Lions and Amon-Ra is showing you the ropes and he's catching his 300 jugs balls a day at the end of practice, are you really going to skip out on that? Are you not going to study? You're going to make Amon-Ra look bad when he told everybody how awesome you were coming in? I don't think so.
You say jugs, it means so much more with your yeah, no, that's you're absolutely right. There's that sense. I mean, you think of Chase and Burrow, right? That connection that they had, and people talked about that. Where did they go? Right? They made it all the way to the big one. There's something about that kind of connection between guys like that. I love the Drake London idea. Now it kind of breaks my Kyle Hamilton argument a little bit, but we'll get into that. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so Drake London potentially in Detroit. We'll see how it plays out. Moving on from Drake, and we'll talk about individual players. We have some really, really good stuff coming for you guys on all that, so be ready for that. The Lions Den, episode 1, where the Lions covered the Senior Bowl, and they released it on, was it 2 days ago on their YouTube channel?
Yeah.
It was like 30 minutes long. What an absolutely awesome coverage of the Senior Bowl. It captured the feel of Mobile, of being there, and kind of the vibe of everything going on. It was really, really well done. The Lions media team is top shelf, bro. They are top shelf.
The best. And we've talked about it in the past that I have friends that, are in and around the NFL in, similar capacities, and everybody raves. The Lions team is tops. They just are. And part of it is that the team itself is good. And let's not take anything away from them. But the real difference is that ownership and the front office is willing to let that information out. A lot of teams will literally they'll wait for their guys to come up with the video. They'll watch the video and say, you need to cut about 80% of this out. It has information we don't want out. And it could be as simple as a short play that you can't even tell what the play is, but they just don't want that information out. The Lions do such a fantastic job of understanding what's required for fans to be fans of your team. You have to show them things. You have to make them feel like they're there and that they're a part, and that, it's not a us versus them, that we have to hide things. They did a fantastic job. And honestly, there was information in there that I thought, is this too much?
I was thinking that too as I was watching it, and I started thinking about, what was it? Oh, what did they say? The 6'4" player, that was the one that stood out. Was a defensive lineman, a defensive player? I forget.
Yeah, and something about we really like how this linebacker runs downhill, and it's kind of like, okay, how many? You can deduce, I feel like, who they're talking about, and maybe. I don't know. There's always the opportunity for them to fib a little, maybe, about some feelings or whatever. But at the same time, it's exciting, And I kind of felt the same way about all of Dan Campbell's pressers.
Yeah,
he released a lot of detailed information about the undergoings of what's happening, just by talking, just by being Dan.
Yeah.
And that's kind of continued. So I'm excited. I think the series overall is going to be a blast this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think, and one of the things I think that they did, and this is something I think, look, again, these guys are no dummies and gals. They are no dummies. And watching them work, they were absolute professionals at Senior Bowl. The way they set up, from end to end, running the show, they were just fantastic. Loved what I saw from them. They know what they're doing. I think a lot of those edits, and as I watched it hit me that they're giving away a lot of information. And then I was looking where they were editing in between a few of the statements about, hey, I've never seen an offensive guy like that, and then they would cut to something else. Yeah, 6'4", cut over to something else, and I really love him. That's somebody I would love to take, right? And I'm like, wait a minute, these could be completely different players they're talking about, edited together in a sequence to give the wrong impression. And I really imagine that that's kind of how it worked. I'd say go take a look again, because I think as I was looking at it, I'm like, well, it could be that kind of inside info, but that's not the kind of organization they are, especially like Dorsey, right? And some of the stuff he was saying, I just don't believe that he would let that kind of stuff roll out. And he seems just the kind of schemer that would use that sort of thing as a misinformation operation.
Big time schemer, that Dorsey. Yeah, no, yeah, I mean, they were even talking about free agency in there and saying like, well, I like this guy when he first came out, this guy, we really like him. One of the things they said that caught me the most off guard, now that I'm thinking about it, was they were like, well, he's going to be 29 at the start of the season. I'd really like to get him in here and see what he can do. And like, I think it was pretty clear they were talking about a safety, and that kind of narrows some things down a little bit. But like you said, a little bit of scheming here and there never hurt anybody, and they knew the cameras were in there. They're not dumb. Yeah, they know what's happening.
Yeah. Schemy level stuff. All right. Okay, so we got that going on. The Lions Den, great episode, great representation. Really good stuff here. Those years, this is from Don H. Well said, Sandman. Those years of complete lockdown nonsense under Patricia, which chased away the fans that hadn't already left because of the abysmal play. Sorry, I said that word, but absolutely right. That was some crazy times with no information except the bad look on the scoreboard week after week after week. Draft video 12 out of 10. Absolutely. Ben Johnson, he looks like the man. We got Game Day Express. Dan and Brad Holmes are great speakers, handle questions well. Absolutely. 100%. Love that. Yes, Dominic, the Inside the Den special highlighted a new offensive coordinator. Got me excited about the future of this team. I'm telling you guys, Ben Johnson is a superstar in the making. It's going to be hard to hold on. But it's the nature of, getting good guys, I guess.
Yeah. And like Don H just said, does anybody besides me believe that the teams in the NFL are sophisticated enough in general to kind of already know how other teams are going to operate, and to some degree, and that a simple statement may not be problematic? I think that that's 100% true. I think most teams are drafting their own draft anyway. I don't think that the Chicago Bears are ever going to look and say, oh, well, we want this guy in round 4, but the Lions might take him in round 3. We should take him a round earlier than we were planning. No. I don't think that that's ever the case.
Unless Pace was still there.
Yeah, I think that, with that knowledge, there might be some trade ups or some movement, but I think you're right. I don't know how much information is actually gleaned, but that still doesn't stop it from being a surprise just because nobody's done it. Right. Yep. I guess I don't watch other teams' product that much, but it was a lot of info.
Yeah,
it was a lot of info.
In the case of football, you want to get high in your own supply for sure.
CBD at Detroit Lions podcast.
There you go. I gotta remember that. So that's really good stuff. Love it. Brandon, Chris, it looks like your philosophy that you've been speaking about is really the truth when it comes to training coaching staff to higher positions, whether here or elsewhere. Absolutely. And getting rid of the pieces that don't fit, right? Anthony Lynn, I think they handled it masterfully. Straight up, the way he departed and still talks about the team was done very, very, very good stuff. Very good stuff. And
it was surprising too. Like, you don't have to, you can just say, hey, I'm at my new team. I don't really have anything to say about the Lions. If you guys want to talk to me about being on the 49ers now, I'd love to talk to you about that. That's not what he did. Yeah. He was like excited to tell people about how he felt about his time here, even though it didn't go the way that I think anybody hoped or planned. I think it kind of shows the integrity of the staff as a whole, and what Dan Campbell actually brings as a leader. I think something like that is also an important
When has anyone
fun
ever
little thing.
when has anyone ever been relieved of duty and talked great about their boss afterward? It's never happens, right? It's crazy. So that was good. I know some of the stuff behind the scenes there. It was handled well publicly, and I think they all knew that that's what they want. It was in everyone's best interest to do that. I know behind the scenes there was some grinding and stuff going on. The other guy that very quietly left that wasn't reported a whole lot on. That's one. That one's kind of interesting. There's some talk that was going on between some teams. So, that one was a good move, and it was instead of one that's as public as Anthony Lynn. That one was very quietly handled behind the scenes, and when something like that happens, that wasn't a good scene. It just it's done. No comment. Moving on. Right, and there you go.
Yep.
So let's see. Loretto, I want to say thank you so much for the super chat. Do you think there's a silent agreements before the draft? I think that's very, potentially possible. If you go to the Eli Manning to the Chargers piece, right? There was an agreement. They wanted to keep it silent, I think, but they couldn't because Archie had verbalized some thoughts out loud. He said the quiet part loud, but I think absolutely there's some conversations that are going on. It's interesting when there was, what were we talking about with tampering? The Tom Brady trade, that was it. That broke during the Senior Bowl. This is something that one got tamped down really quick, and this is where I think the silent agreements piece and some of the things that happen might be a little crazy or shady in the NFL. There was talk, Tom Brady, they had a conversation with Ross on the boat ahead of time. Oh my God, that's tampering, right? Well, I gotta say, if your quarterback happens, quote unquote, to be in Cabo talking to the coach of the team that he eventually trades to, could that be called tampering too?
Yeah, and Kyle Shanahan was also there. Mm-hmm. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Yeah.
And then Glazer, who gets all kinds of insider information, right? So he has to do something for that. I'm just saying it doesn't come free because, little Jay's a nice guy. Oh, yeah, I'm the one that told McVay that Stafford was there. Oh, for sure. Yeah, I was the one that he's the fall guy, right? He's the one because he's pulled away from it. He's not in the fold or subject to those rules. So he winds up being the matchmaker. Just to stinky. So anyway, great point about the dead weight. Ron Prince, right? That's a great example of holding on to dead weight on this team over long periods of time that we shouldn't have. So anyway, that was great stuff on Lions Den. I'm really looking forward to seeing a lot more of that this year. Really quick, want to talk about the combine, and in order to do that, we're going to call Jeffy the Riz here and get him on the phone and talk combine, what he's seen. Let's see if we can get that ringer ringing. All right. He said he's going to be on the road. He's a busy dad.
He doesn't have a ring back? I thought he'd have like Mozart.
It would absolutely be Iron Maiden. Riz!
Guys.
What's up, man?
It's good to talk to you guys. I'm finally back home. I actually just got home, so it's good timing.
Ooh, wow, good. So we didn't make you sit in your car in the driveway while the kids were banging around at the windows, right?
You did not. No, you're good.
Good to hear. How's everyone doing? Everyone happy to have you home?
Yes, well, I think so. Actually, my son is the only one that's here with me, and he was happy because I brought him a shirt. So that's what always.
You know the currency of the kingdom.
Yes, exactly.
All right, let's get into the combine. I know you've got a lot to do. You want to spend some time with the fam because you've got to spend some time with the fam. Tell us, give us the lowdown, brother. What was going on? We saw the interviews with Coach and with Brad Holmes. Why don't, if you want to talk about those, you can start out, but I'm just going to let you take the mic and run with it. You're good at that.
Yeah, sure. And so they were back to back at the same podium, which was very nice. I think they and the Cardinals were the only teams that got that benefit, which was pretty cool. And it was interesting because they were at the podium. They followed where Cliff Kingsbury was, and like he had a very weird media session. Like normally you don't expect to hear a lot of like groundbreaking things, and honestly we didn't hear a lot that we didn't expect from Detroit. I think the biggest thing that fans are going to take away from it is that Danny Campbell did acknowledge that they are going to go to a more base 4-man front rather than the 3 front.
Yeah.
And he talked about it, and he did elaborate a little bit more on it in a side session. And he basically reiterated what he said publicly, though, was that it suits the personnel that they have better. And he's specifically talking about the edge guys, that would be Romeo and Trey Flowers, and also what Anzarike and McNeil and anybody who they would be adding to that mix. So that was probably the biggest thing that you took away from it. Trey Flowers is still part of the team. We're sort of divided as a media throng as to how serious they are about wanting to like completely get rid of him or just make him take a pay cut. And there are a lot of people that still think that he's going to be back in Detroit, which was surprising to me because I didn't think there was any way that was going to happen. And most people on the outside don't think that's going to happen, but you can't rule it out that he'll be back. So that was another thing that was a little different for me that I didn't expect.
Speaking of media thongs, Sandman, what's your thoughts on Flowers? I mean,
I'm pro daisies, not a big daffodil guy, but I think Trey Flowers, he's an interesting guy, right? So he was brought in by Matt Patricia to fill out the defensive end position that desperately at that time needed to be filled because we didn't have anybody to contain edge. The first year of Matt Patricia was so abysmal as far as edge contain because he wasn't asking his linebackers to do it, and we didn't have a defensive end that could do it. So they bring in Flowers, and at the time, people were pumped, like, oh, look at his pressure rate. It's like one of the best in the league, and blah, blah, blah. I wasn't super pumped on it, mostly because of how much it cost, and I'm still not really pumped on it because he may bring a bunch of things outside of the game as far as the locker room and that, but he really just, he hasn't been super healthy. When he is healthy, I don't feel like his production matches his cost. And this team has too many holes to continue to pay people that their production is underwhelming, in my opinion. And I would think that he needs to find a new home and give us some money back.
And not the money to spend on somebody who's not producing, right? I mean, we don't have the luxury with this team, and we saw it this year with so many, Jerry Jacobs coming into his own as a player because he got an opportunity, because we had so many players that didn't have, that availability piece working. If you're paying that kind of money, they have to be on the field. They have to be playing. And we just don't have the luxury and the level of talent to be able to kind of spend like we kind of feel like we're doing with Flowers. Could he have a great year? Probably. But you're thinking he's potentially coming back. Risdon, is that what you said? Or there's just
possible. I still don't personally expect it, but there are people who are closer to the team than me who do think that he is going to come back, at least for the beginning of the year. And then it's a case of maybe he's playing well, and maybe Levi is playing better enough that we don't need him there, and we can deal him for something. That was one of the prevailing arguments that was going on. It's tough to say. I still don't think he'll be back. That's my official prediction, but I don't know.
Got it. Okay. All right. What else is going on? Let's. Do we want to hit about the 4-3 thing? I don't know. I mean, this is weird. And Sandman and I were going to talk about this a little more in depth, I think, afterward. But I don't know that we were officially really like a 3-4. We were kind of hybrid-y, but yeah. I mean, all I know, Sandman had some very explicit ways of explaining these defenses. Did you want to go into that, Andy? Or
yeah, I mean, Matt Patricia brought the 3 front in, but it really felt like a 3 in my back end. He forced it in. He really forced it. It didn't need to happen. That's what he wanted, and I honestly, I feel like we never got to see a full 3-4 defense fully come to fruition here because Bob Quinn's drafts were so weird. So he started, right? So we got Trey Flowers, who's kind of a 3-4 defensive end. We drafted like Julian Okoro, who's kind of a stand-up linebacker rush. We drafted Tavai, who's like a pure middle linebacker, but we never really got to see it. Our team still held on to a bunch of 4-3 guys. And I think Campbell and crew saw that, like outside of Flowers and outside of, really all the nose tackles that we had were gone.
Right.
We didn't have any of those guys left. They all left in free agency. And outside of a few random pass rush guys that can still be used as situational pass rushers in stand-up roles or as blitzers or whatever they want to do. To me, it makes sense. I don't think going to a 4-3 is that big of an ordeal. I think some people are making it out to be like this is a wholesale defensive change. I don't think so. I think they're just leaning one more. We're 55% 4-3 instead of 55% 3-4.
Let me ask a quick question to Riz on this one. And this is something that just kind of popped into my head. Moving to this more 4-3 kind of front kind of look, how much does that help Levi Onwuzurike?
It should help him a lot because that's more of what he played in college. Where I think it's really going to help, though, is it's going to help the linebackers, whoever they might be, because the goal now is for the linebackers to make more plays. In the last scheme, in Patricia's scheme, while they were supposed to be making plays, like it was more on.
Yes.
Good place to pause there, wasn't it? It was more about like linebackers playing a role rather than being. And then this is something that Dan Campbell said was we want downhill attack linebackers.
Yep.
Now that is more fitting with a 4-2-5, which I think is going to wind up being the base. I think people are talking 4-3. It's going to be a 4-2-5 or at times a 4-1-6. That's that. A couple of the defenses in the league this year, and I'll go to the Browns for a second. The Browns, when they were at their best, when they were shutting people down, were running a 4-1-6 with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah in the dead middle of the defense and flowing all over the place. And that guy, he's what people want Nakobe Dean to be this year, except Dean's a lot smaller. And like that's the vision that you have. And you can see how Aaron Glenn, we kind of saw it in Mobile a little bit, how he was working with the defense and how he had guys shading at different spots. Like if you were an edge, like you played some 7, you played some stand-up wide 9, you played some stand-up outside linebacker. So they were kind of experimenting and tinkering with it back then. And you saw the nose tackle. Sometimes he's heads up. Sometimes he's over to a shaded 1. There were a couple times when he even played a 2-eye. Like you saw that. So that we all sort of knew that this was coming. Like that they were certainly going to play more even fronts. Like it wasn't going to be like a total conversion. And it's still not going to be. There are going to be situations where there are only 3 linemen on the field, and they go back to what they'd had last year with the 2 stand-up outside linebackers as your edges. Hopefully they're better than what they were last year. And that's the ability to match up. And some of it's going to be dictated. Like, does this team have a good tight end, an inline tight end that they have to worry about? Like, are you playing George Kittle? You have to play him differently than you play a team that doesn't use a tight end, that uses a fullback instead, or that uses a slot receiver to crack down.
I think
and then block that.
And so here's kind of one of the things that I was looking at and why I kind of leaned into the Levi thing, and you followed up with the linebacker thing. I mean, perfectly, because I think this informs some of the teams thinking about the draft with this kind of move, and all of a sudden Levi's helped out. You're not as likely to be looking at the interior of the defensive line for players in the draft. You've kind of alleviated some of your linebacker pressure, player pressure in the draft, right? I mean, you've now kind of schemed around. Sit down for this one, Sandman. Schemed around the players you have, and and you're kind of moving the thing forward. And again, I think this kind of tells what are they looking for in the draft. We're going to have a conversation later. This is one that maybe you could put in 1 year while the wife's talking is the time to do it, Riz. But Sandman's going to go into depth as to why not Kyle Hamilton and who he thinks instead. So I think that kind of ties in well with this whole concept of trying to predict the draft and where Holmes will go. We only have one draft under our belt with him to use as a kind of weather vane or whatever, but it's interesting to try to see how things are working, and maybe Dan gave us a little more than he thought with that idea of how they're changing the defense up.
Yeah, and it could be, and it would, like, again, you're going to be looking at, does Kyle Hamilton fit your defense? Yes, and no matter what you're running. Does Aiden Hutchinson fit your defense? Whatever, no matter what you're running. Yes, like there's nothing they can't do schematically. I do think that as a 4-3 end, Hutchinson is better than he is as a stand-up 3-4 outside linebacker, and I think that's a lot of us, and I'm not talking necessarily Lions media here, but a lot of the draft media picked up on that as like, okay, Hutchinson's 2, that's his floor, like he ain't going lower than that. And most, I was honestly surprised at how many people that I know in the draft media who were like, oh, they're taking Hutchinson, like no doubt about it, like not even a thought that they would take anybody else if he's there. The question comes up is, what if he's not there? And that's, I don't know if that's less, I feel less likely that he will be there, but I am a little bit more concerned that he won't be. And then I do wonder what they're going to do, because I don't think that they're Kayvon Thibodeau fans. I don't think they're going to take Kyle Hamilton that high. That's when my guy Thor Nystrom, his pick of Malik Willis at 2 comes in. And I talked to Thor last night, and that's do you want to talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah, go for it, bro.
Yeah.
Okay. So Thor writes for NBC Sports Edge, used to be RotoWire, and he wrote the mock draft that had Malik Willis at 2. And he and I, we're old friends. We're good friends. We get together all the time. We sparred on Twitter good-naturedly. A lot of people jumped in not so good-naturedly and attacked one of us or the other of us, as people are wont to do. And so Thor and I last night, and there was another guy with us who, and I don't remember his name, but he had incredible hair, and I was jealous.
They've got to wear a name tag if they got the hair, otherwise Riz will never remember.
Seriously, you're not kidding. So we were sitting there. I had a couple pops with him, and we were talking about Malik Willis, and the general consensus, and this is also across the Lions media, is the whole concept of, if you're taking a quarterback, if you're Detroit, you want them to be better than Jared Goff in 2023, because that's your out point on Goff. Like there's not a soul in the world that thinks that Jared Goff will not be the starter for all 17 games in 2022. Right. Not a soul.
Not a sane soul, anyway. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Yeah. So Thor's point was, look, obviously Willis needs reps. He's obviously the only guy that could be better than Goff to start 2023. And I don't disagree with that. And we talked a little bit about it, and we discussed some things, and he made some really good points on it. And I liked his idea of how you can work him in like late in games, get him some live action reps, get him into your system. And it's important to have that, because you don't know that you're going to be, and he mentioned this, like he doesn't think this is a top 10 picking team next year. If you think that that quarterback class next year is deeper than this year, I'm going to tell you right now, nobody thinks that way. Like it's CJ Stroud, and that's it. Like, if you're not picking 1 or 2, you're not getting a quarterback that can be better right now. At the same point in the process now, where this class was a year ago, this class is ahead of next year's class. That's a pretty well-received consensus. And I know people are screaming Bryce Young. Bryce Young is 5'10", 185 pounds, and benefits greatly from playing with everybody on his team being in the NFL at some point. He is not viewed that way by a lot of people in the draft community.
But I hear he'll be a really good Dallas Cowboys offensive coordinator in 5 years.
That could be, yeah. So then we were reverting back to Willis, and we're like, okay, what do you have to do to get Willis? Like, a 2, okay, all right. I don't want to do that, I don't want to do that, but I do want a quarterback that can eventually take over in the system. So I'm a bit flummoxed by this, because he's making good points to me, and I'm making decent refutations. I'm like, watch his Army game. Like, you're gonna like, how the hell is that guy starting at Liberty? Like, it's Liberty. Like, that's not even a good school football wise. And he was terrible. Now, he had no help. He didn't get the benefit of like his center might have been the worst player in college football last year. That guy was awful. Didn't have a lot of help at receiver. But at the same time, he didn't help himself either. And we saw this in Mobile. He doesn't understand the concept of touch. He doesn't understand how to make an anticipatory throw. He has to see it and then gun it. And he's got the arm strength for it. I think we all saw that pretty well in Mobile. We saw that he did process things quicker as things sped up around him, which I thought was very encouraging. And then, so then today, his podium time. Dude is cool, man. I like him.
Yep.
Like the comment that I made was he's really comfortable being Malik Willis, and that's a good thing.
Yep.
Just a lot of very easy, natural confidence. And this is something that, again, we heard down in Mobile a lot, was like, yeah, that guy, we don't know what it is, but whatever it is, he's probably got it. Like in terms of like how players respond to him and everything. Mm-hmm. I really appreciated that. And the way he held court today, like this is a guy, he's not going to get flapped when a hostile radio voice on the flagship station attacks him. And repeatedly attacks him. He's not going to care. He's going to fight back, and he's going to fight back in the best way that he can by proving them wrong on the field. I like that a lot. That's it's weird because it's a borderline Baker Mayfield mentality, and a lot of people don't really like Baker Mayfield's mentality. Yep. But it plays well for Detroit. Let me put it that way. And this guy, like if they do get him, he's very mediagenic. He's savvy. He's smart. He's not bad on the eyes. Like you can see why the appeal is there for him. But again, at 2, like,
yeah,
if you just earned the number 2 pick. You can't give a guy a year off.
Right,
you just can't do that.
Right.
Yep.
We were talking to him at the Mobile airport when we got to Alabama, and what you said was absolutely it. He is cool, unflappable, just a really, really a likable kind of guy. You know what I mean?
Very much so. Yeah.
And then and this is the thing, I'm seeing it right, Leonore, I've got to figure out how to say this. He's a first read quarterback, plus he scrambles to run, not throw. His eyes are never downfield. That feels a lot like the knocks on Jared Goff early before the play calling, Ben Johnson and Coach Campbell took over, right? Oh, he's not making the reads. He's a first read, and then, he's rolling into the rush. This would be a polarizing as hell pick, especially at 2 for Lions fans. And that's, I don't know how comfortable I am just alone with that polarization.
Yeah, I'm not either. And I'm not, as somebody who has to cover this on a day-to-day basis, I'm not thrilled about that, to be honest with you.
Yep.
And I do not get the sense from the Lions that they will do it at 2. Now, if they're going to come up, this is something, and I wrote it in the mock off-season proposal that I did, the number 3 version, where I talked about how you get up to trade, and I used the Mahomes trade as a blueprint. Mm-hmm. You give 32, 34, and one of next year's first, and you move up to 10. You have to be in front of Washington, because the way that one of the Washington media guys was talking about him today was almost like, dude, put some pants on. We're in public.
Well, and I'd be worried about Pittsburgh wanting to trade up too. And I to be frank, I haven't looked at what kind of ammo they have, but Mike, Mike Tomlin was all over. He was like pushing Lions coaches aside in Mobile to get closer and to talk and to see what's going on during practice. He wasn't letting anyone get between him and Malik. He is a man in love.
Yeah, and the Pittsburgh media reaffirms that's like the talk around town, is that he's not going anywhere below where Pittsburgh picks. So if you think you're going to get Willis at 30 or 32, no, you got to be up to 10, to 11, maybe to 9 even. That's 3 picks. That's 32, 34, and a first next year. And by the way, that will be the Lions first next year, not the Rams first next year, to get up there.
Yeah.
And in that case, the team that will be trading back would probably also send Detroit back a 3rd this year, or a 4th or a 3rd next year, that type of thing, just to make it out a little bit, because the NFL doesn't like it when one team gives up 4 more picks than another team in a trade. Yeah. That's just sort of not copacetic. or they could send a player back. But who, then you're dealing with this is a team that's picking in the 10, 9 to 12 range, and they have a player that they don't want. Yay, great.
Yeah, that's the Malik Willis is an interesting thing, but again, if he was in last year's draft, where does he go, Riz?
He's after Fields, no question about it. So after Lance, after Lawrence, after Fields, who else was in the quarterback class this year? I'm even spacing out on it. He wouldn't have been in the top 3 for sure. And so the comparison that I use, and I said this to Thor, and the dude with the nice hair with it, like, pointed at me. He's like, dude, you're right. I compared him to Jake Locker when Locker came out of Washington. And it didn't work for Jake Locker. And they're very similar quarterbacks coming out, because like Locker was a phenomenal athlete. Ran 4.48, I think I want to say, was bigger than what Malik is. Had the je ne sais quoi as a leadership, like just had that. But this was a guy who could not throw for touch. He couldn't make anticipatory throws, and he never really learned how to do it. And his accuracy came and went. That's Malik Willis right now. We talked about this with Panay. Like, you're counting on your coaching staff to coax the best out of Panay, because otherwise he could be Greg Robinson. Well, give your hat off to Hank Fraley and the offensive staff for doing right by that. But can they do it with a quarterback? And that's the $1 million question. If they can, if Mark Brunell, who clearly likes Malik Willis, he's not even hiding that. Yeah. If he's that confident in it, again, I don't want it too, but I would understand it. But I do think that if you do that, then you're taking away a premier weapon off your defense somewhere, and that you're not going to be able to recoup that, like at 32 and 34. If you're taking Willis at 2, that's just, or you're pushing. Now you're getting, you're possibly getting Chris Olave or Jamison Williams with that 32 pick. Now you're pushed back at wide receiver to getting like a David Bell or somebody like that with your 3rd round pick, or you're just missing out on a player that could help you go from 3-13-1 to 9-8 next year. And I do think that they can do that if they get the right amount of impact. And you're sacrificing a number 2 pick for that. You're sacrificing another year. That's a tough sell, man.
You're also betting, as the front office and coaching staff, you're betting all your chips year 2.
Yeah.
And this isn't the staff to do that, in my opinion. The staff has been playing the long haul game the entire time. I feel like they've been doing the long haul game well. I think taking Willis at 2 pushes everything up.
Yeah.
And that's a scary thought. Not many staffs get to take a guy at 2, watch him fail, and continue on.
And do it again.
Yep.
And let's be honest, do they want to put themselves in that position? Because I believe they see success. They see the sun, crusting the horizon. Do they want to really throw all in on this, which is a lottery ticket? Right? They know what they have in Jared Goff. If he doesn't, and I think they believe he can do it next year. I think that's just, if I put myself kind of in their head, I think they think he is the guy that's going to be able to carry this team. If he's not, you're going to be drafting where you need to be to get yourself a quarterback, right? I mean, that's basically, if you're not drafting where you can get a quarterback, that means Goff did his job.
See, I needed you with me and Thor last night to say that argument, because I didn't produce that very eloquently, and I stumbled over it. It was probably after the second cocktail kicked in. It was
second soda pop.
That's a very valid point. What you just said is, and this is something, and again, this is reading beyond what they've said, but reading body language, reading things like that. It's clear Brad Holmes still thinks that Jared Goff is the long-term solution at quarterback. Now he's not going to not get insurance for that.
Sure.
But it's going to be very disappointing to Brad personally if Jared Goff isn't the long-term solution at quarterback, because he did stick his neck out to go get that. Like that deal does not happen. Specifically, Goff doesn't come to Detroit in the Stafford deal unless Brad Holmes really wants him and is a believer in him, and that he's made it clear that he does want that and he believes in that.
And, I think people are also forgetting that, Jared Goff has been in the NFL for a while now, but people forget he's 27. He still has 7-8 more years as an NFL quarterback.
Yep.
That's a long time for a guy that you already have on your team, that you're already paying, that you can lock down longer. That's, you could argue that he's not ever going to do anything special here, but I mean, he's been to the Super Bowl. He's proven that he can do it, even if it's not the way that we would like it to be done. But yeah. I mean, it's one of those conundrums. Last year I was full bore. We need Goff out of here. He looked awful. I was very vocal about how poor he looked and how poor he played. And then, like Chris said, there was a switch. Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson started doing some stuff, and all of a sudden, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't Stafford throwing 60-yard bombs, scoring touchdowns, highlight plays, but he was dinking and dunking us down the field pretty efficiently.
Using the weapons that he had at his disposal. Yeah.
Yep. And it's hard to argue with that when, like you said, a number 2 pick should be incredibly impactful. And we're going to get into that a little bit more when I talk about why I'm anti-safety at number 2. But
honest to God, I don't think you have to worry about it. I think, and a lot of other people think, that safety will be resolved in free agency before the draft. And so for all of you who are freaking out, this whole Kyle Hamilton debate, the whole Kyle Hamilton debate is likely to be pretty moot in a couple of weeks.
But Riz, at safety right now, we need 3. And I don't know that's all going to be resolved at that point. I mean, we'll see.
So one of the things that happens when you go to the 4-man front is that you can play your slot corner full time. So then you have 2 outside corners and your slot corner. And that allows you to play your split safeties over the top. Right. So you really only need 2. And people are very confident that they're going to get 1. Mm-hmm. And the other side of that is the draft is really middle heavy in safety. Yeah, and we saw some of those guys in Mobile, Petre and Scene and a few other guys. Yep. Like the Lions have done homework on all those guys. They are clearly interested in upgrading their safety position. It's just not necessarily at number 2. Right. So I don't want to rain on your parade there, Andy, but I hope that you don't have to make that argument.
No, you're gonna take some of the artillery shells from the slack.
Yeah. So well. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was we got to meet with Ben Johnson. They pulled a bunch of us local media aside and gave us a breakout session for 10 minutes with Ben. And I posted a little clip of it in the Patreon Slack channel. Please subscribe. It's worth it. Trust me. And it was fun watching him, the way his face lit up when he talked about getting a big target in the red zone was oh my God. This is like, the Lexus or the Chevy ad where the woman walks out and she's like, oh, I want the red one. It's like, oh, I like blue. That was wow. That sort of reaction when he talked about getting a guy who can win outside the numbers in the red zone. And also, he talked about stretching the field horizontally, but also stretching it vertically and having somebody with size down the field. And he didn't come out and say it, but it's abundantly clear that they do not think that player is on the team right now. They like Amon-Ra. They're pretty okay with Quintez coming back and trying to earn a role. I don't know if Josh Reynolds is going to be back. I don't think Khalif Raymond is going to be back. If he is, he's going to be the return man more than he's going to be a receiver. So they are, like what Randall L. said, they're going to draft 2 and they're going to sign 1. And nobody should be surprised by that. And nobody should be surprised if 32 is a wide receiver or 34 is a wide receiver or Epiphany. Both could be wide receivers. That's where the meat is. And so I'll go through real quick what we were talking about last night at dinner. We were sort of going through the wide receivers and spitballing where they were. And if any of these guys would be available where Detroit is and where a couple of other wide receiver needy teams at the top of the second were. Drake London, no. Treylon Burks, no. Garrett Wilson, no. Those are the 3 no's that like nobody expects them to be there at 32. Not a chance. You get to Chris Olave, you get to David Bell, you get to what's his name, Jameson Williams, with the injury. Maybes. Those are maybes. Then beyond that, you're looking at, you're taking a bit of a downgrade there, and you're looking for a more specific role player. Well, the interesting thing is that's exactly what Ben Johnson talked about that he wanted, and what Dan Campbell has also said is that we have roles that we have to fill. Like, so they don't necessarily need that otherworldly number 1 wide receiver, a guy like a Julio Jones or an AJ Brown or DeAndre Hopkins. Like, they can make do with a guy who wins as an X receiver only, wins as a wide receiver only, wins as a big slot only. Like, they understand what they will need to do with that. And that's what I took away from Ben Johnson. That and the fact that he's just a really cool guy too.
He's smart as hell,
also,
isn't he?
He looks like he's like 18. Like, you need to card him if you're going to the bar with him.
He's a super, super smart dude and very well respected. He's the kind of guy. Look, I hate to make comparisons like this early, but he's the kind of guy, a very McVay kind of guy, and he could have very much the same trajectory.
That kind of energy. So I saw Sean McVay on a Zoom today, and my God, that guy's just like jumping out of his chair all over the Zoom. Like, you got to respect that.
He's like Tom Cruise on Oprah, right?
Oh, jeez.
Yes. Wow. Yeah, there's a flashback for you. Yeah, yeah. So it was pleasantly nice to meet him. I wasn't expecting that, to get that breakout group, so that was cool. Yeah. So that's kind of what it took. Like, there's a lot of more broad, like, general draft takeaways that I took from it. I did a couple. I did Giants TV today. I did Jets radio today. Did Browns radio today. I did Texans stuff yesterday. So I have a better idea of what those teams are doing, and just in general. By the way, the personal highlight for me, I led off the Big Blue TV, which is the Giants in-house thing today. And immediately after me was Daniel Jeremiah. And immediately after him was Charles Davis. I told the host, but I've been on there several times. Like, dude, you're putting me in a class that I don't belong in here. It was honestly, it was at the same time inspiring and humbling. And I talked to DJ for a little bit. We've met like once before. He actually remembered that we had met. Didn't remember my name, which was fine. And then Charles Davis, like, we sat at a table at a restaurant in Mobile about 5 years ago. I'm like, yes, sir, we did. Like, he remembered that. I was like, wow, like, that guy is really smart. Like, Charles Davis, off the charts smart, and can flip from subject to topic like nothing. I actually stayed and watched him do his bit. Like, wow, like. I want to be that guy when I get older. Just I think I know his age.
Awesome. All right, Riz. Anything you want to wrap with? I know we are you trying to stay away from the family? Is that what's happening right now?
No. So my wife and daughter are coming home from volleyball as we speak. They'll be home in like 10 minutes. And I had to pick my son up. My son still doesn't have his driver's license. He has his permit, but didn't have enough hours yet. So I had to get home so I could get him home. And I'll hang out with him for a little bit. He had by the way, I got to gloat. He hit a half-court buzzer beater at the halftime last night in a rare Zeeland East win, which was great. They beat Ludington. He got to play against one of his best AAU teammates, and they won. I think they're 3-15 now. But he had a half-court shot, and honest to God, I was in my hotel room at the time. I was streaming the game, and I hit my head on the ceiling of my hotel room. And I'm sure the people in the rooms next to me were not happy with me screaming.
So definitely a proud dad day today here on the show. Sandman, yeah. Any news from you?
Not on the child front.
Okay. Well.
Yeah.
Look at the picture. If you need some help, let me know.
just a couple of general things on the draft. The NFL, and I said this on the Giants thing, and I think I said it in our Slack too. The NFL does not like Kayvon Thibodeau nearly as much as the fans think they should.
Yep.
And it would not it would not surprise me if he fell to at least 7, if not further. In fact, 7 is one of the Giants' picks, and I don't think they're taking him. So probably further than that. The offensive line is bubbling up. The battle for the top: Evan Neal, Icky from North Carolina State, and Charles Cross. All 3 of those guys are top 5 picks. So now you're looking at Aiden Hutchinson, slot him at 2, but he could be somewhere else. And this is the interesting part with the Lions. If they don't do Willis at 2, and I don't think they're taking Thibodeau either. I don't think he fits a 4-man front. I think he is a straight 3-4 stand-up outside linebacker, and that was made very clear by a couple of other people who are higher up in the media food chain than me. They could trade, and there could be somebody willing to trade up, especially if it's Evan Neal that doesn't go first, because that guy's seen as a generational type of talent, as ironically enough, as a right tackle. And that's not a problem for people. Detroit, get over the right tackle, left tackle BS. You need 2. If you get an elite right one, you're great. There's nothing wrong with that. It's worth the number 2 pick in the draft. It was certainly worth the number 7 pick in the draft last year.
There you go.
Yeah, where does Von Miller line up? I can tell you it's not against left tackles.
Yeah. Well, where's Aiden Hutchinson going to line up? It ain't against the left tackle.
Yep.
Okay, we'll talk. Well, you're leading me down a path here, Riz, and what we're trying. We'll talk about it. I want to hit a great super chat from Loretto. Look, I'm willing to be wrong, right? And it takes all different kinds. Safety at 2, terrible value, and that pushes a lot of problems to the forefront. I believe this front office will get value for the second pick. Decent experience, safety, 8 to 10 mil, less for prove it deal. Also, what's easier to get in free agency, a defensive end or a safety? And I'll just go to my argument there. And thank you, Loretto, for the super chat, man.
Yes,
brother. I think you can get your DT at 32 and 34, and your safety up front, and your wide receivers in the 3rd. That's kind of my MO. That's where I'm looking at. You're not neglecting the position. You're going to get starters. You're going to get year 1 starters that can put pressure on. Let's not forget the Rakora twins. There's a lot available on this team there. We'll talk about it. I mean, I don't want to step on Sandman's piece, but like if we say, hey, we're going to sign Marcus Williams at safety, he's coming from the Saints, who we have that connection there. You're going to pay him what? What is it, Riz? A $14 million a year?
14 or 15 million, and he ain't going back to New Orleans.
No.
Nope.
No. So 14 million. I mean, and we talked about it last week at safety. If you get him number 2, he's basically making about $9 million a year. Your first year is actually 7.2. But it's $9 million a year over 4 years. You got a 5th year option on him, and that would make him like the 15th or 17th highest paid safety in the league. And you're talking about a top 1 through 5 level player for that cost. That's not a bad deal. I mean, it's not at all. You're playing it. So anyway, I don't want to. I want to set Sandman up for success. People already, and I don't want to feel defensive either. So I got to get this out of my head.
Yeah, it's a very good year to need a lot of safeties.
Yeah.
That's where the Lions are at.
Yep, exactly.
But I will definitely listen to your argument, Andy. But I'm going to sign off now because I got about an hour and a half of sleep last night, and I've driven like 9 hours in the last 2 days. So I'm going to go to bed, guys.
We didn't want you on anymore. We didn't want you on anymore anyway, Riz.
So there you go. Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I will try. I'm going to be in Louisville this weekend with my daughter. It's for a volleyball tournament. That means I'm going to be in a hotel room, and then I will be in a convention center that has 178 volleyball courts with 12 girls on each team between 12 and 16 years old, and they scream non-freaking stop all weekend. So I might steal away to the hotel room for a little while and shoot a little from a Lions perspective. Awesome. If I'm duly motivated and if I can get the bags off from under my eyes, because I don't want to look bad.
Awesome, brother.
Get some cucumbers, Riz. Hit the hay.
All right, the Riz, Jeff, the Riz Risdon. Good stuff. Love his
fantastic
takes.
As always.
Yeah, love his takes.
The best.
Loretta, love you, man. We need upgrades at safety, not top safety. We need a safety right now. We're number one is Will Harris. So a top safety would be a start. All right, let's move on. I got to quit making my arguments. Quit arguing with the chat, Chris. Stop it. All right, we'll move on to the next one. We were going to touch on defensive changes. I think we'll let that sit, Sandman, because we're going a little bit longer than we maybe wanted to here. But I do want to really quick hit cbd.detroitlionspodcast.com, cbd.detroitlionspodcast.com. If they pick the guy that you don't want at second, you're definitely going to need CBD. You're going to need to help take care of your head, your pain, your anxiety, your insomnia, all those things that are so prevalent with Lions fans. If you go to cbd.detroitlionspodcast.com, you're guaranteed the good stuff. Talked to a number of people who've gotten it elsewhere, and we're like, it's not as good as the stuff from Diamond and the stuff we work with. And if you use the coupon code LIONS, you'll get 55% off anything there. Pain, anxiety, insomnia. If you're looking for a buzz, you can get that with the Delta 8 or the Active CBD. It's all there waiting for you to take care of yourself. cbd.detroitlionspodcast.com. Thank you. All right, Sandman, this is it. This is the magic moment. Here we go. I'm going to shake the tension out of the shoulders. Really quick, I want to kind of put something out there for folks. Thank you everyone already for the super chats. We're trying to use the super chats here for the rest of the next couple, like 2 months, to try to raise money. The internet has been improved in our area, and we could potentially go up to like a 4K stream and do some really, really good stuff if we did that. Those super chats definitely will help us get to that point. So if you want to help us kind of upgrade our kind of studio feed and the quality of what we get out there, we appreciate it. The super chats are what we're gonna put towards that. So you can help us there. And also the super chat, the more you guys give, the less likely we are to get Sandman a new camera. So you'll be able to feast your eyes on Sandman's body for the rest of the shows and the draft party and so on. Right.
I've already got the 8K red on order. It's coming in. You see all my nose hairs.
Okay, we're gonna do the retinal scan. Stop blinking, Andy. Okay, let's get into it. This is the piece, and again, something that we want to do on the show, and something I really have always wanted to do, is bring in different voices. I continue to make my choice for, Hamilton at 2, my argument why Hamilton at 2, but I know there's arguments against it and reasons not to do it, and I appreciate that they exist and they're good arguments. And someone who always makes cogent, intelligent arguments is Sandman. And I thought he kind of hit me as we're texting, hey, you want to fill in this week for Riz on the show? He's like, yeah, what do you want me to talk about? Why Hamilton's a terrible idea. And I was like, yeah, I actually do. I absolutely want you to do that. So here we are. This is the chance. Oh boy, guys.
Ooh,
the best.
Ooh,
Donnie,
they want you. They want. Not only do they want you to have 4K stream, they want the OnlyFans in 4K.
I got rejected twice by OnlyFans. Why? They shut me down twice. Oh, Don H, thank you for the cause. That is, you are a superstar. Really appreciate it. And Leonore, the hopeful, that's really sweet. $50 super chat. You are spectacular. Ooh. Thank you so much. I don't know why anybody wants to see us that beautifully, but here we are. All right, Sandman.
Incredible.
I'm going to pause. I'm going to let you run and go ahead and hit it. Why not Kyle Hamilton?
Well, let's start with, and I've been banging this drum for a long time. I think that positional value is real and it needs to be taken into account. I've watched the Lions ignore positional value to the detriment of the team for a long time. Basically, positional value was almost completely ignored by the Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia regime. I mean, Bob Quinn in general, I think, just ignored positional value.
What player stands out the most for making that game? There's so many to choose from. Was it Tease? Was it Jelani?
Yeah. I mean, positional value, like, those weren't horrible picks. I think the players were just bad. Like, I have a heavy argument against Jeff Okudah at 3. I hated that pick. Not because I thought Jeff Okudah was bad, because I don't think a cornerback has value at 3. like, I think recency bias kind of makes us feel like cornerback is something that can happen. You know, Lattimore hit with the Saints. There was like a couple other guys that were taken very high that turned out to be very good year one players and continue to be good players, but that's not generally how it goes. So when you take cornerbacks at 3s, or when you take tight ends at 8 or at 10, and I want to preface all this by saying, just because I don't think that the value is there doesn't mean that I dislike the player. If they draft Hamilton, I'll close my mouth about the positional value and I'll be pumped that Hamilton is on our team because he is a fantastic player. That's not what any of this is about. It's more about how does that position impact the team and how easily can you find one outside of the top 2 picks or top 5 picks for that matter. You know, when we drafted Hawkinson, it was the same argument. Tight ends don't have to be high picks to be good players. In fact, most tight ends aren't high picks. There's only a few that really have blown up, and really what's their win above replacement?
Like Eric Ebron, huge blow up.
Yeah. I mean, you know, there just doesn't happen. So if we look at safeties overall, the last little bit, you know, like LaRon Landry, everybody knows LaRon Landry because he killed people out on the football field and he was juiced to the gills. Yep. But people forget he was the number 6 pick. The value is not there. You've got guys like Dante Whitner at number 8, Michael Huff at number 7. Do people even know who Michael Huff is? You know, there's just not a good value there, where I feel like in the free agency market, you can get a safety that was taken in the 3rd, 4th round that has proven to be a good NFL player for a good price, and they can come in and be good contributors to your team. That's what Glover Quinn was. That's what James Hedebo was for us for the 2 years that he was here, or the 1 year. I don't remember if it was just 1. I think it was 2. I think that there's value there. It's incredibly hard to get a top flight defensive end on your team because by the time a team gets one of those, they generally don't hit the market again. Right. When it does happen, it's incredibly rare. When Khalil Mack gets traded, that's like, holy crap.
They're still
people lose their mind.
Right. They're still paying for Khalil Mack in Chicago. Von Miller is another one, right?
Correct. And like when you have those guys, they will win you a Super Bowl by themselves. I mean, Von Miller kind of drug that Broncos team with Peyton Manning's dead arm to the Super Bowl, you know, with his defensive play and with everybody else. I just think, you know, whether it's Hutchinson or whether it's Thibodeau, and you know, I'm not a big Thibodeau fan. I'm a big fan of Hutchinson. I think you just get more value out of that pick. And it's hard to collaborate. But like Jeff was saying, most people don't think that you can take a safety at 2. To me, you have to have a generational safety at 2, where he has to be the consensus guy. And then, even if he is the consensus guy, you don't see him going number 1 or number 2 in most drafts.
No, you're absolutely right there. You're absolutely right.
Just because the value is not there. Like, there's a reason why these offensive tackles there's going to be potentially 3 offensive tackles in the top 5. It's because they have to protect against guys like Aiden Hutchinson and other people that will wreck your game. A safety, while incredibly impactful, if you can get a Ed Reed at the number 2 pick, a lot of people would say yes. If we redo that draft, I might take Ed Reed at number 2. But how many Ed Reeds are there? There's been 1 Ed Reed. There's been 1. You know, and it's hard. Yeah. So even if you say that Hutchinson, let's say, for example, isn't going to be a Hall of Fame player, even if he's like a B+ player, a B player, he's going to get snaps and he will impact every single down that he's out there, whether or not the ball is tossed his direction or not. And I think that there's something to be said for making sure that your team is built properly and not too top heavy. And I would consider a safety a top heavy pick, just like tight end and just like cornerback. And obviously recency bias, the tight ends worked out okay for us. Hawkinson's been good. Was he worth number 8? Yeah. And then Jeff Okudah's been injured, and it's hard to say what's going to happen with him. But shoot, Jeff Okudah might be our number 3 overall safety next year. depending on how his Achilles looks.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be safety. I've heard that, but no, you make a really, really good argument. But let me ask, and this has come up in the chat, if your guy, our guy, the guy Hutchinson is gone, if they take him number one, and you and I are both kind of out on Tibbs. He's and I see him tumbling down boards and different ratings as time goes on. Who's your guy if Hutch is gone?
That's the incredible hard part. So Jeff kind of touched on this a little bit, and it's hard because there isn't any position of need for the Lions that is high in this draft outside of defensive end, in my opinion. Obviously, if he's the only option there, the Lions can't trade back. We don't need an offensive tackle. We don't want to draft a guy and have him play guard for a year. Mm-hmm. That doesn't make any sense. I don't necessarily want to reach for a linebacker or, whatever. I definitely don't want to take another cornerback at 2. I think you are kind of stuck there. And at that point, I'm not going to be mad at anything because at that point, positional value is out the door. But if we take a safety over a defensive end that's worthy of the number 2 pick, that's harder for me to swallow. That's the hard sell for me.
Yeah. Now let me ask, because this is one of the things I was thinking about. Hutchinson in last year's draft, or in a typical draft, and this is one of the things that's really kind of scrambling my eggs this year, is the top couple picks in the draft. There's nobody that's is that consensus guy. There's no Matt Stafford. There's no Joey Lawrence, no Trevor Lawrence, right? I couldn't resist.
Hey, yo, or whatever. Yo,
yeah, I forget. But there's no just the guy, right? Hutchinson in a regular draft, I think he falls down a little bit further, right? I don't think he's the number 1, number 2 overall pick as a defensive end, as good as he is. We've seen some really good work out of him. The Ohio State game, though, he was schemed against. They're going to scheme against your number 1 defensive end in the NFL as well, right?
Yep.
And they didn't make him look great. In the run game, he's kind of about average, and I don't want to dog on him too much, right? But there's a couple, he's got things where he maybe wouldn't be number 2 in another draft, whereas Kyle Hamilton is probably the top safety in the last 5 to 10 drafts potentially. And so while I understand positional value and you make great points, and look, the Ebron pick is the one that stings I think the most, but we can go through Tease Tabor, we can go through Jelani Tavai, we can go through so many players that were just wrong values where we got them and how much that set the team back, how much we downgraded positions by doing that. Having Will Harris, so my kind of, Will's a really nice guy, and I don't want to, hit him on a personal way, right? But having Will Harris as your safety means you have none. And I recognize that Riz says, well, yeah, you just need 2 safeties. No, you need 3. You have to have a backup. If Will Harris is your backup, fine, but you still need at least 2 top quality safeties. And if you get a guy like Hamilton, he can shut down half that field and the run, where defensive end, God, he can do the same thing differently, right? God dang it! You make a good point. I'm kind of playing both sides here, right? And
it's hard, I'm getting blasted for being a politician in chat, but I mean, honestly, we have to. There's a lot of things that we can't account for, right? So as far as what we can see free agency, what we plan, what the Lions already basically have in place of who they're going to sign, who they've, I think, they're definitely bringing in Williams. And it wouldn't shock me if they brought in 2 guys. And honestly, Will Harris kind of came into his own a little bit when he was asked to do less as a deep safety and more as a, slot corner. Mm-hmm. And if that's what you want out of your third safety is kind of a slot safety, I'd have to go back and watch more tape, but Will Harris didn't play that bad the last 3-4 games of the season when he was forced in because all of our cornerbacks were dead or blind or, had their legs shot off. I don't think it was that horrible. Obviously we don't want to play him at deep safety. That's not where he plays. But, going back to Risdon, if Hutchinson is gone, I would rather take Willis than a safety. Ooh. Just by positional value. Yeah. You can get a safety whenever. If you're at that point and you don't, like, his good haired friend was saying, what are the odds that you get the quarterback you want again?
Good haired friend. I would ask that of the Rams. Pretty high.
Yeah.
and again, these guys are kind of from that Rams tree. And I'm not, and I'll probably get crucified here. I'm not out on Goff. I'm not. I think there's something there with this guy, and if he can do it, great. I'd be more willing than Willis, and again, having seen him at Mobile, and I'm not trying to elevate my thinking on this, but having seen him at Mobile, he didn't strike me as a guy that's going to do well on this Lions team or the next Lions team. I don't feel great about having that number 2 pick not contribute on day one. I'd rather have Ritter Howell at the end of the first round. You know what I mean? As a developmental and a backup and go there. I mean, Howell had a great arm. I mean, in ways he reminded me of Stafford's arm in Mobile. Mm-hmm. I really liked what I saw there. I could see, okay, fine, we've got a solid 100% backup, a guy that's not going to lose us games if Goff is out, a guy that potentially with the right kind of tutelage, right, could get us there. And just to kind of peek ahead, or just to pull the other topic in, Mark Brunell said he could turn one of the 3 quarterbacks on his roster from the Senior Bowl into a Pro Bowler within 3 seasons. If that's the case, if you can get him at 32, what the heck? Let's see it. Get your guy that's going to make an impact, whether it's Hutch, whether it's Hamilton. Either one of those guys is going to make an impact day one for this team.
And that's the good argument for your side of safety, is that this team lacks playmakers. Mm-hmm. They basically have none. Yep. They basically have none, and on defense anyway. And that's hard to overcome, and it's one of those things where, like opponent yards per play, the Lions had 5.9 yards per play as a defense, which is crazy. That's the kind of stat you look at and you think, how did we win any games? That's a ludicrous stat. You look at like
we went together, Andy. That's what we held hands for the whole game and we did it.
Yeah, I mean, you look at like sacks per game. The Lions had 1.8 sacks per game, which was 31st in the league. That's a hard stat to overcome. Mm-hmm. So a playmaker at any position will help that. It's just, I guess what's more impactful, a pass deflection or a pressure?
An interception. Right. and either one of those could lead to an interception, pressure or your guy, your Hamilton in the secondary, right?
The argument is always one helps the other does not help the other.
Yeah.
That was a horrible sentence. No, I can't believe that came out of my mouth.
But I understand it.
Pressure helps safeties, and I get good coverage can help pressure, but not when the rest of your team is.
I feel like I'm in in airplane. Don't worry, I speak marble mouth. No, I get it. I mean, can safety help pressure, and can pressure help safety, right? I mean, is where you're at with that.
Yeah, chicken and the egg situation.
And I really, really like the idea. If I think about what we have at corners, if Okudah comes back, and I'm really confident, seeing how Cam Akers came back. Was he a superstar? No. Did he play like he was hurt or injured? No. Right? I mean, there was other reasons why Cam wasn't the Cam before the injury. I thought he looked great for coming back from an Achilles. That gave me so much hope about what we're going to see from Okudah and how much extra time he has compared to what Cam had to get his body together. Seeing the film of him working out now, looking really good. You get Okudah, you get Jerry coming back, you got Warrior. You've got some really nice looking pieces at the corner position. You get your safeties kind of locked up, and you kind of have that Legion of Boom, right? It's going to be hard to throw against those guys. If Aaron Rodgers leaves the division, you have quarterbacks that are going to be in deep trouble because all they can do is run at that point. And then it comes down to What do we have, right? As far as linebackers in the front seven there, that's where that all comes. That's why I keep kind of like, if you grab Hamilton, you get your two defensive ends or a defensive end and a linebacker, 32, 34. And it feels like your defense was going to be pretty locked down at that point. I guess you could get a safety later and get Hutch first too and do that. It's fine. Whatever.
We'll all see. We'll see, and then we'll see what they do with their first picks in 2024 in Detroit.
And what's beautiful about this is we've now played both sides, so we can say, "See, we told you so." Right? Isn't that the strategy anymore?
Oh, I'm pumped for that. I've already recorded the stream, and I've already got a slow light of it with me jumping up and down after Hutchinson's first sack fumble touchdown.
Oh man, there you go. All right, so why not Kyle Hamilton? That's a good argument. I like the argument. Very sound. Other than the one sentence, it was cogent. I mean, it was.
I had a stroke, which I'm sure a lot of people are having to my picture right now. So
that's right. That's right. All right. With that, don't forget about Amazon.DetroitLionsPodcast.com. You get your Prime. You can see all your Sandman movies. I don't know if they don't have that kind of movies. Whatever. Anytime you go to Amazon, you got to buy something from Amazon. If you start out at Amazon.DetroitLionsPodcast.com, it'll send you right to Amazon. It won't look any different than as if you went there, but it sets a little cookie and lets them know that we sent you, and they give us a little cut. They take the money. It doesn't cost you anymore. They take money out of Bezos' pocket and put it in ours, and we need to work hard to make sure that Bezos doesn't own a football team. So the more you purchase at Amazon using Amazon.DetroitLionsPodcast.com, the better for the NFL. I mean, think about that. That's your task. Make the NFL a better place. Go to Amazon.DetroitLionsPodcast.com. All right. Let's see. Killer breakdowns. We have some awesome player breakdowns coming. This Friday will be the first. It will be, of all people, on Kyle Hamilton. And then on Monday, we'll start talking Hutchinson and Tibbs. Some great breakdowns we're shooting for Friday and Monday, a new video on new players all the way up to the draft through the positions that will be available and the players that will be available at the different points in the draft. If you want to get your research done and you want to do it in an enjoyable way, we've got Colin hard at work right now and some really, really good insights in these players. Again, the first one drops on Friday and the next one after that on Monday, and we'll do Fridays and Mondays going forward. Looks like there's some really, really good stuff coming your way. I've got the Hamilton one edited and ready. Good quality content. You guys are going to love it. So check that out. Make sure you hit the like on this thing and subscribe to the channel and hit the little bell to get notified when those go live. Great stuff coming up. Great player breakdowns. You will be ready to go for the draft if you watch all this great content we've got coming. Woo! Oh, so how's the season ticket life? Anything that people want to know about from on the Lions side? Any reporting from our number one man in the season ticket world?
Yeah, so far so good. I think they're offering a little bit more this year. I think they heard a lot of fans. I'm sure I complained about it on the program, but the game experience just wasn't good last year. Not just because the team was bad, but because I think the stadium experience just wasn't good. Whether that's due to COVID or not, who knows? But hopefully it'll be improved. They started out by giving some extra special experiences. And I don't know if every season ticket holder got that or if it was just the people that spend more money like I do, like the chump I am. But no, I'm excited. And hopefully some of those special experiences I can share with you, Chris. We can go get some special tours of the Allen Park facility. We can get some special OTA practices and see how that goes.
Give me tingles all the way down to my toes. Oh, yeah, my bells are ringing. Good stuff. Let's talk about some key dates as we like to do as we get winding up here. We've got the combine going through the 7th. It starts on TV tomorrow, right?
Yes.
It's when all the events start. Malik isn't running. Just there's we'll see what's going on with that.
Which is a weird choice.
Yeah.
A really, really weird choice.
Yes. Yeah, I feel like if I'm Malik and I'm that athletic and I'm that kind of player, I run just to, the whole thing. I'm going to put it on the table, bonk, right? And there it is, everybody. Now it's something I'm proud of, and you're going to look at it. The choice not to is a little bit concerning. So We'll see what that means. All right, so the combine is on through the 7th. We'll go through everything and cover events next week for sure. We'll have our player breakdowns before that. The 16th is really the magic date. That's when the league year begins. Player options, qualifying orders. You got to be under the salary cap for 2022 before 4 p.m. on the 16th. League year starts at 4, and the trading period begins on March 16th at 4 p.m. That's when it's weird because last year at this time we knew the Stafford Goff thing was going to happen, right?
Yep.
We already knew, and we were just waiting for the date to click off so we could say, okay, we checked the box. We expected to check. This year, the world's wide open, right? It doesn't seem like there's anything out there as far as what we're going to do other than speculation.
And that's all we have.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. All right, so let's see. Leonore, the hopeful. Whose bad idea was that? His commitment is already being questioned. That's on Malik. And again, Malik him doing that when people are already questioning Tibbs and watching him fall. I just don't know. I mean, is this a strategy to fall to a better team? Is that what he's trying to do? I mean, there is something to be said not to be drafted high.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's one of those things that I kind of get it. That's kind of been the thing where quarterbacks want to say, hey, I'm not just a running guy. Stop looking at me just like that. But at the same time, you are a running guy, and teams know that. And it's not a horrible thing to just put your number out there just to show how athletic you are.
In Mobile,
show your explosiveness.
In Mobile, he went to the run. He run. I mean, that was it. Like, he wanted to show off his running ability in those games. So it's interesting that he doesn't want to run at the combine. So March 16th is the big one. League meeting is the 27th through the 30th. That'll be interesting to see. Who was it? I forget who it was that put it out there about ensuring possession for both teams in overtime. So that's an interesting one. I'm sure that'll be considered there. Offseason workouts begin April 4th for teams with new head coaches, which is meaningless to us. Finally, April 18th, though, teams with returning head coaches will begin their off-season workouts. So April is where it's at. The draft is 28th through the 30th, and May 2nd is the option year, the 5th-year option exercise deadline. Whew, a lot of stuff coming up.
Like the dead zone of the NFL, came and went pretty quick.
Yeah. I want to just reflect back. I mean, it's just March 1st. So like a year and 2 months ago, January 1st of 2021, your fandom, well, maybe even December, before the firing, or, after the firing, wherever, right around there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about where you were emotionally with this team. You know what I mean? And I remember asking, do you buy season tickets? I mean, do you actually make that purchase, Sandman? Is this team worth? And you're like, I feel bad making you question it.
You didn't you just said something I had already been thinking about at that time. It was rough. It was really rough. The team didn't show any promise. We had just gotten rid of arguably the best player the Lions have had in the past 50 years. Stafford was going to leave. It's amazing what a competent coaching staff can do for as far as how I feel about a team. And I wasn't sure that this coaching staff was competent, but this last season, in a weird way, it was not a good season. It was an awful season of football.
Yep.
There wasn't a whole lot that was positive about what was happening. We had a ton of injuries. We didn't even really get to see our team as a whole. The offensive line that had so much money and time and effort put into it crumbled before our eyes, and still looked good, at certain times. And it was such a weird season in that way that you could see the promise, you could see the angle that the team was heading, but there was no fruit to pick yet, I guess is how I would put it.
It very much so. I mean, I compare it to the year before when we had more talent on the team. Beyond just the quarterback position, we had more talent on the team the 2 years prior, even 3 years prior. trended downward when the Quintricia regime took the reins, but it was better talent than we had last year. And it felt like, we were having to decode what's the plan and where are we looking, where can we find hope for this team, right? Because it was easy to be out on the team, but who wants to be a fan of football? You know what I mean? In that way, who wants to live like that? My God, acid in your stomach all the time, right? But I mean, it was hard to find the bright spots. It was hard to kind of decode what's the plan and how can this plan work? You know what I mean? And this last year, arguably with far less talent, a worse record, and from a numbers perspective, except the run game, arguably worse than any of those other teams. It was so much better football to watch, to be a part of.
Yep.
And I know the in-stadium experience. I mean, my in-stadium experience was a loss at SoFi, but it was SoFi, right? And, and our first win over Minnesota with you, and it was. I mean, my stadium experience was awesome. But that piece aside, what an incredible shift. I mean, in your connection to the team and as a fan and watching and rooting for your team. It's just I still haven't figured it out, and I still can't articulate why. I mean, you said it so perfectly about the former regime, about being touched in your fandom. There's no better way to articulate what they did to fans of this team and how they affected them. But why was it that this year was so much better? And that's what I can't figure out. I mean, from a fan perspective of watching the team, we didn't get the wins. We lost for a long time. It was, Don, it was fun to watch. All but 3 games were fun to watch. Absolutely. We were in them. I mean, the stuff that Campbell pulled out, right? The crazy Dan, Riverboat Dan. I don't know what, he's got a million nicknames, but I don't know.
Yeah. Though I guess I would equate it to like somebody with an iron deficiency doesn't know that they have an iron deficiency. But once they get the iron and they realize how much better they feel, I feel like football became fun again. And it's hard to equate why, and it's hard to say how, especially when your team is missing Stafford, and Stafford was the whole reason this team was fun for a long time. But just, you miss it until it's back. And then next year it's going to be, if they have another bad year, God forbid, it'll be, what the heck? We'll forget about the uptick that we had from, you know what I mean? It's like when your back hurts, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. And in this case, it was kind of the reverse of that. You don't know how good it is to not have your back hurt until your back hurts. Yeah. Ramon, the New Age, he did it in one word: expectations. And it's interesting because we started the season saying, look, this is a 3-win team, maybe 5 at the tops, right? This is going to be a tough year, but it's going to be fun football to watch. I mean, that's really how we kind of set up the season. Week after week, we talked about that. And by week 9, right, I was really getting this sense of like, oh man, people are off the rails. They're not feeling it. I mean, they're still enjoying and still watching and still engaged in football, but it's starting to lose the fun piece, right? They just want the W. It was such a weight on people's shoulders. And I was like, we kind of expected this, guys. Remember, we kind of said that this was going to be the case. And then I think when we got that win against Minnesota, I know for me, the drive home, I did that video. I mean, the celebration we had, I lost, my voice was affected for over a week. It was so post-coital. It was so refractory period. It was, but for like days, the feeling, the sense of just pure relief. It's incredible. It was incredible what that win did for my spirits and psyche. Yeah, I can't. It's nuts. It's nuts. And I got to spend it with you, man. It was a great weekend. It was. It was. All right. Well, we've done it the long way here today. Sandman, it's always great to have you on, brother. I love hanging and chatting. Oh, absolutely. It's always a pleasure to be on.
All right. Well, don't
Really
forget,
is.
we're really, it's always great to have you on. You know that. We're really trying to get to that 4K stream. If you guys can help us out, super chat, or you can join us on Patreon, patreon.com/Detroit Lions podcast. In return, you get access to the most intelligent Lions chat on the internet, the Slack chat, and particularly in the off season, it's great. $5 minimum to get into the Slack. We made some changes just because that barrier means something, and it helps ensure that it is the most intelligent chat. And it is the best part. I mean, just some of the information we were saving around how you don't have to pay some of your subscriptions to certain websites because there's a way to get that for free. Great stuff in that Slack beyond just the football talk. There's gambling, there's barbecue, there's beer, mock draft. We have all kinds of different channels you get access to, all kinds of great basketball, college basketball, hockey. I mean, you name it. It's all in there. Different channels, great topics, great people to talk with. You guys will love it if you get in. Patreon.com/Detroit Lions podcast. Get there, support us, help us get to our 4K journey. Also follow us on Twitter at DET Lions Podcast, DET Lions Podcast, and at Sandman7773. That's 3 7s and a 3. Luckiest you're ever going to find. All right, give us a call on Skype. It's Detroit Lions Podcast, all one word. Detroit Lions Podcast. Or call us on the Lions line at 929-33-LIONS. 929-335-4667. And be sure to go to DetroitLionsPodcast.com. Subscribe to the podcast. Why would they do that, Sandman?
To get the what?
So the week
I wasn't ready. I was relaxing.
I wasn't
ready. I was just sitting there. I'm like, man, Chris is really good at this. He nails this. It's like Michael Jordan running to the hoop, jumps up for the slam dunk. You're just standing there, ready to watch some magic happen, and all of a sudden he bounce passes it into your gut. You're not ready for that. You shoot the 3, you hit the side of the backboard, you look like an idiot. No one remembers you. You're benched. That's where I'm at right now. What the hell? Now I have a basketball-sized fucking bruise on my tummy.
But it's covered up at this from this angle. You're okay. By a couple other basketballs.
My brain was half off. I was thinking about dinner.
Oh, be sure to go to DetroitLionsPodcast.com. Subscribe to the podcast so we can show up in your ears
automatically. There, yeah. See, I know I'm there. I can make the shot. I just wasn't ready. I still had my warm-ups on. I'm not even in tennies. I've still got the slack shoes on. I'm wearing a sweater. Good Lord, man. I'm not making a half-court shot with no warm-up. Holy crap.
Thank you for tuning in. We're going to see you next time on the Detroit Lions podcast. Remember, no pants, no toasters, no hot tubs, no problems, because we're your Detroit Lions and Reddit connection. I love you, Andy.
Later.